Friends, if you ever worked for a public school, a state agency, a county, a city, or any government employer that had its own pension, this video is for you. And if you also paid into Social Security through other jobs, a summer job, a second career, part-time private sector work, there are two provisions buried in the Social Security Act that most people in your position have never heard of. They are called WEP, the Windfall Elimination Provision, and GPO, the Government Pension Offset. For millions of teachers, firefighters, police officers, and state and local government workers, these two provisions are the reason the Social Security check they planned on for decades arrives hundreds of dollars smaller than expected. The WEP and GPO rules are not new. They have been in place since 1983, but because they only surface at retirement after decades of planning, most government employees spend their entire careers expecting a Social Security check they will never fully receive. Today, I am going to walk you through exactly how WP and GPO work, how to calculate their impact on your specific situation, and what options may still be available to reduce the damage before you retire. You will learn the WEP formula, how it reduces your earned Social Security benefit based on your government pension, and the 2026 maximum WEP reduction of $587 per month. You will learn how GPO can reduce, and in many cases completely eliminate, the spousal or survivor benefit a government employee's spouse was counting on. And at the end, I will give you a 5-question checklist to determine whether WEP, GPO, or both apply to your household, and what to do before your retirement date. Quick note, this is education, not personalized legal or financial advice. Please talk with a Social Security specialist or fiduciary planner before making any retirement filing decisions. And stay with me for the GPO section, because the spousal and survivor benefit impact is the part most couples never see until it is too late to plan around it. Let me start with a story. There's a woman, we'll call her Ruth. Ruth spent 26 years teaching 5th grade in a public school district in Ohio. She loved her work, she loved her students, and her teacher's pension through the Ohio Public Employees Retirement System was something she was genuinely proud of. What Ruth also did for 18 years before teaching and during summers and breaks was work private sector jobs that paid into Social Security. She had more than enough quarters to qualify for a Social Security benefit on her own record. Ruth ran her Social Security statement every few years. Her projected benefit at full retirement age was $1,240 a month. She built her retirement budget around that number. Then she retired, filed for both her teacher's pension and her Social Security benefit, and the SS check that arrived was $653 a month, not $1,240. Not a processing error, not a temporary adjustment, a permanent reduction of $587 a month applied automatically because of a provision called WEP that Ruth had never been told existed. Now let me show you Larry. Larry is 64. He spent 28 years working for a federal agency covered under the Federal Employees Retirement System, which does pay into Social Security. Larry also had some years in state government earlier in his career. At 57, Larry heard a colleague mention something about WEP during a retirement seminar. He did not fully understand it, but he wrote it down and called a Social Security specialist the following week. That phone call changed his entire retirement plan. He learned exactly how WEP and GPO applied to his specific combination of federal service and Social Security contributions, and he had 7 years to adjust. Ruth learned about WEP on the day her first reduced check arrived. Larry learned about it 7 years before he retired. Same rules, completely different outcomes in terms of planning time. Let me ask you, if you have ever worked for a government employer with its own pension, do you know whether WEP or GPO applies to your Social Security record? If the answer is no or not completely sure, everything in the next part of this video is for you. To understand what happened to Ruth, you need to understand the Windfall Elimination Provision, what it is, why it exists, and exactly how it is calculated. Social Security calculates your retirement benefit using a formula applied to your average indexed monthly earnings, your AIM. The formula is designed to replace a higher percentage of income for lower earners and a lower percentage for higher earners. For most workers, this formula works as intended. But Congress determined that government workers who also have a pension from a job that did not pay into Social Security were receiving an unintended benefit, appearing to the formula as low earners when they actually had substantial pension income. The Windfall Elimination Provision was created in 1983 to address this. It modifies the Social Security benefit formula for workers who also receive a pension from a non-covered employer, meaning an employer whose workers did not pay Social Security taxes. The key phrase is non-covered employer. Not all government jobs are non-covered. Federal employees hired after 1983 pay into Social Security. They are covered. But many state, county, and local government jobs, including most public school teaching positions, are non-covered. If you worked in a non-covered position and earned a pension from it, the WEP may apply to your Social Security benefit from other covered jobs. Now, how does WEP actually reduce the benefit? Here is the formula in plain English. The standard Social Security formula applies a 90% replacement rate to the first tier of your average earnings. WEP reduces that 90% down to as low as 40%, depending on how many years of substantial Social Security covered earnings you have. The more years of substantial covered earnings you have, meaning years where you paid meaningfully into Social Security, the smaller the WEP reduction. If you have 30 or more years of substantial Social Security covered earnings, WEP does not apply at all. The reduction phases out gradually between 21 and 29 years. And there is a cap. In 2026, the maximum WEP reduction is approximately $587 per month. Your benefit can never be reduced by more than that, and it can never be reduced by more than half of your monthly pension amount. For Ruth, 18 years of private sector Social Security contributions, teacher's pension of $3,200 a month. Her WEP reduction came in at the near maximum, $587 per month. Her projected Social Security of $1,240 was reduced to $653, a permanent cut of 47%, because of 18 years of private sector contributions that happened to sit alongside a non-covered government pension. And this brings us to GPO, the government pension offset, because Ruth's story does not end with WEP. Ruth is married. Her husband worked entirely in the private sector. No government pension, full Social Security contributions for 35 years. His Social Security benefit at full retirement age is $2,800 a month. Under normal Social Security rules, Ruth would be entitled to a spousal benefit up to 50% of her husband's PIA, reduced if she claims before her full retirement age. 50% of $2,800 is $1,400 a month. That is what Ruth expected to potentially receive if her spousal benefit exceeded her own benefit. The government pension offset applies to those spousal and survivor benefits. GPO reduces the spousal or survivor Social Security benefit by 2/3 of the monthly government pension amount. Ruth's teacher's pension is $3,200 a month. 2/3 of $3,200 is $2,133. That is the GPO offset applied against her spousal benefit. Her spousal benefit of $1,400 minus the GPO offset of $2,133, the offset is larger than the benefit. Ruth receives zero spousal benefit. It is completely eliminated. Not reduced, eliminated. Ruth receives no spousal benefit from her husband's 35-year Social Security record because her government pension exceeds the GPO offset threshold. And if Ruth's husband were to pass away first, the same GPO calculation applies to the survivor benefit. The survivor benefit Ruth expected to fall back on, eliminated by the same formula. This is the part of WEP and GPO that most financial advisors not specializing in government employee retirement miss entirely. They run the social security numbers without factoring in GPO. The plan looks solid on paper, then retirement arrives. Stay with me, because in a moment I will show you the complete dollar picture of what WEP and GPO cost Ruth's household over a 20-year retirement. And I will also show you what Larry's 7-year head start allowed him to do. But first, there are two important exceptions and one planning tool that many government employees have never heard of. Exception 1. If you work in a position that is covered by Social Security, meaning your employer withholds Social Security taxes from your paycheck, WEP and GPO generally do not apply to that position's earnings. Some government workers, particularly federal employees hired after 1983 under FERS, the Federal Employees Retirement System, are in covered positions. Their Social Security benefits are not affected by WEP. Exception 2. If your government pension is from a foreign country or from a job in a country that has a totalization agreement with the United States, WEP rules may apply differently. This is a niche situation, but worth checking if it applies to you. And the planning tool. This is the one most people never hear about until it is too late to use it. The SSA has a WEP online calculator at ssa.gov. It is free. It is specific to your earnings record, and it will show you exactly how much WEP will reduce your Social Security benefit based on your actual covered earnings history. This tool is available right now. If you have a My Social Security account at ssa.gov, which takes about 10 minutes to set up, you can run your specific WEP calculation this week. Larry ran this calculator at age 57. It showed him that WEP would reduce his Social Security benefit by approximately $290 a month, not the maximum, because he had more than 20 years of substantial covered earnings. He used the next 7 years to build additional covered Social Security earnings, taking on consulting work in the private sector specifically to push his total years of substantial SS earnings closer to the 30-year threshold. By the time Larry retired, he had 27 years of substantial covered earnings. His WEP reduction had fallen from $290 a month to approximately $170 a month. A meaningful difference he engineered specifically because he knew about WEP early enough to do something about it. Ruth had no such opportunity. She learned about WEP after she retired. The number was fixed. The reduction was permanent. Now let's put the full dollar picture on the table. Ruth's projected Social Security at full retirement age was $1,240 a month. After WEP, she receives $653 a month. Over 12 months, that $587 monthly gap becomes $7,044 in lost Social Security income compared to what Ruth's statement said she would receive. Over a 20-year retirement, the cumulative WEP impact on Ruth's household is approximately $140,880 in reduced Social Security income. And that calculation does not count the eliminated spousal benefit. If Ruth's husband had passed away in year 15, Ruth's survivor benefit, which she expected to fall back on, would also be zero due to GPO. Without the survivor benefit, Ruth would be living on her teacher's pension and her reduced Social Security check alone for the remainder of her retirement. Now let's look at Larry's picture, knowing about WEP 7 years early and doing something about it. Larry's Social Security at retirement after the $170 WEP reduction is approximately $1,890 a month, down from a projected $2,060. Because Larry is under FERS, a covered federal employment system, his wife's spousal benefit is calculated normally. GPO does not apply to his situation. His wife receives her full spousal and eventual survivor benefit. Over a 20-year retirement, Larry's household retains approximately $98, $400 more in cumulative Social Security income than Ruth's. simply because Larry understood WEP 7 years before he retired. And this does not account for Ruth's eliminated GPO spousal and survivor benefits, which would add tens of thousands more to the lifetime gap between the two households. I want to pause here and say something clearly because I know some of you watching this are already retired and hearing this for the first time. If you are already receiving a reduced benefit due to WEP, there is generally no appeal mechanism to reverse it based on the rule itself. UEP is a feature of Social Security law, not an error. But there are two things worth checking even after retirement. First, verify that your WP reduction is being calculated correctly. Errors in earnings record reporting do occur, and if your covered earnings are understated, your WP reduction may be larger than it should be. Second, if your government pension amount changes significantly due to a lump sum option, a pension error correction, or a cost of living adjustment, notify SSA. WEP is recalculated based on your actual pension amount. And if you have not yet retired, you still have the most powerful tool available: time. Alright friends, let's bring this home with something you can actually use this week. I want you to imagine we're sitting at your kitchen table together, coffee between us, notepad open, and I'm walking you through 5 questions every government employee needs to answer before they retire. First, have you ever worked for a government employer whose workers did not pay Social Security taxes? Pull an old pay stub from that job. Look for the OASDI or Social Security tax line. If there is no Social Security withholding, that was a non-covered position. Second, do you know how many years of substantial Social Security covered earnings you have? Go to ssa.gov, log into your My Social Security account. Look at your earnings history and count the years where your Social Security covered earnings were substantial. SSA defines specific dollar thresholds for each year, listed on their WEP information page. Third, have you run the WEP online calculator at ssa.gov? The WEP online calculator is free and specific to your earnings record. It will show you the estimated WEP reduction for your situation. If you are more than 5 years from retirement, this number can still be influenced by your future work decisions. Fourth, does your spouse have a Social Security record of their own? And do you understand how GPO could affect their spousal or survivor benefit based on your government pension? Run the GPO calculation for your household. Take your monthly government pension amount, multiply by 2/3. Subtract that number from your spouse's projected spousal benefit. If the result is 0 or negative, GPO eliminates their benefit entirely. Fifth, have you spoken with a Social Security specialist who has specific experience with WEP and GPO calculations for government employees? Not a general financial planner, not your HR department. A Social Security specialist who specifically models WEP and GPO. Ask them directly. Have you run WEP and GPO calculations for government employees before? If they hesitate, find someone who has. These 5 questions will not reverse what WEP or GPO has already done, but for everyone who is not yet retired, they could be the difference between discovering this rule in a letter and discovering it while you still have time to plan around it. Here's my challenge to you after this video. This week, go to ssa.gov and run the WEP online calculator. Write down the number it gives you, then do the GPO calculation for your household's spousal benefit. Write those numbers on one piece of paper. Second, if you have more than 5 years until retirement and you are in a non-covered government position, ask whether additional private sector Social Security covered work could push your years of substantial earnings closer to the 30-year WEP phase-out. Third, share this video with any teacher, firefighter, police officer, or government worker you know who is within 10 years of retirement. Ruth's story plays out every single day for people who had plenty of time to plan and simply never got the information. Ruth has been telling every teacher in her former district about WEP since the day she retired. She cannot change her own situation, but she can make sure her colleagues do not walk into retirement facing the same surprise. You can always earn more money, You cannot unretire and add Social Security covered work years after the fact. WEP and GPO are not traps if you know they are there. They only become traps when you plan a retirement income around numbers that will not arrive. If this helped you understand WEP and GPO for the first time, or helped you see your own situation more clearly, do 3 things for me. Hit that like button so YouTube shows this to more government workers and teachers who need to hear about WEP and GPO before they retire, not after. Subscribe to The Quiet Retirement for more plain-spoken Social Security and Medicare explanations. The rules that actually affect your retirement income, one video at a time. And in the comments, tell me whether you knew about WEP and GPO before today. And if you are a teacher, firefighter, or government worker, drop your state and how many years you have in your pension system. I read every comment, and your situation may shape a future video. I'm Uncle John, reminding you your money is important, but your time and your health are priceless. Let's use the rules to your advantage, not theirs. I'll see you in the next one.